Teddy Pendergrass, welcome to our show Profiles.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you.
And also thank you for inviting us into your home in the suburbs of Philadelphia.
Yep, the suburbs of Philadelphia.
Yeah, it's beautiful here.
Thank you, thank you.
And for our viewers, we just want to mention that, of course, they know you as one of the hottest R&B stars of the 70s and 80s. You, beginning as a lead singer of Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes.
Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. For a while, I thought my name was Harold.
Yeah.
I got called Harold all the time.
A lot of people thought you might have been.
Yeah, absolutely. They figured the guy that's singing the lead must be Harold Melvin. So.
And I guess at the time, I don't know if Harold Melvin was too happy with that.
Actually, he didn't really care because it still was his name, it still was his group, so no matter who was doing the work, he still got the praise. So
he sure did, and a lot of hits.
Yeah, a lot of hit records.
A lot of hits. And of course, you then went on. You left Harold. I'll get into that in a minute as to why you left and when you left. But you also had a tremendous solo career. Mm-hmm. And what was interesting about it was that your recordings were just as successful as your live performances. And you established yourself as one of the greatest live performers of your day.
I always took pride in performing. I always felt, I still feel, that the performance end is really where you make the music and the record in. If your performance is no good, people are not going to go out and buy your records. I think that's first, and I think a career comes first, and I think a record just gives you the groundwork to establish a career. It's kind of how I believe. It's my philosophy. So I did everything I could to establish myself on the stage because that's where I got my training. Where I learned before records was on a stage in front of audiences, little old ladies, 200 or 300 people. So that's where I got my groundwork. My basic training was as a live performer.
Now, I read somewhere that you grew up in Philadelphia, and your mom used to work at a theater, a supper club, a supper club here in Philly, and that as a child you used to basically go to work with her, and you were able to see performers such as Connie Francis, Bobby Darin.
Bobby Rydell, Chubby Checker.
So this was, you were able to see them in performance and kind of establish your roots as to how they do it.
I got a chance to see it. Didn't know that that's what I was going to do, but I got a chance to see it. And I kind of think is where I was bitten, by watching that. It was a wonderful experience.
And the defining moment for you as far as knowing that you wanted this as a career came the night you saw Jackie Wilson.
Absolutely.
That happened to a lot of people, by the way.
Yeah, I'm sure it did. He was smitten by Jackie Wilson in many, many ways. He was truly a ladies' man, and I saw him at a theater here on North Broad Street called the Uptown Theater.
Right.
It's a theater, it's counterpart to the Uptown. The Uptown was at the Apollo in New York, the Regal, different theaters around the country is what we call the Black Circuit.
Right. And
at the time in the 60s where a lot of black artists got a chance to perform on a regular basis.
Right.
And as a young black child in the inner city, I used to go to the Uptown Theater all the time. I used to cut school and go. Don't tell my mother I did that. She still doesn't know, but I'm sure she's figured it out by now. I'd cut school and I'd go to the Uptown Theater and I'd watch like a day of shows, an evening of shows, 5 or 6 artists for $1. And it was the greatest thing that I have ever done in my life. So I got a chance to see Jackie Wilson one night when my mother told me not to go out. And I went out anyway with a friend of mine and wound up going to see Jackie Wilson and didn't leave, saw Jackie Wilson, and I thought, man, this has got to be the way to go. I mean, I saw more women fall at his feet and it was just an amazing thing.
Total control of the audience.
Total control.
His presence on stage.
And most of all, what I learned to appreciate later was his professionalism and the fact that he absolutely understood nothing was a fluke, nothing was by accident. It was all designed. It was not a Hollywood scripted set. This man went on a stage with a band and everything just came natural, and he did whatever he wanted to do, and it was total control. And I began to understand that the older I got, but at the time, as a 13-year-old, I just thought, God, this is what every man wants to do. So
that was a wow back then.
That was a wow, yeah.
And, of course, talent had a lot to do with it.
Talent had everything to do with it.
during that period of time, you became the first African American to have 5 platinum albums in a row. Is that something that you take pride in?
Absolutely. I didn't think about it at the time. I was busy working. But as it turned out, I didn't realize that that was a first. I had no idea until after it was over. Actually, I didn't find out until probably pretty close to the time of my injury. I didn't really pay attention to it. I was too busy establishing my direction and reaching my goals. And I didn't know that that was a goal I was after or something I was trying to achieve. It wasn't a record like you find athletes or sports figures trying to go after someone's record and trying to break people's records.
Right. It just happened for you.
It just happened.
And of course, you worked with Harold Melvin in the Blue Notes. You were the lead singer back in, I guess, the 70s.
Early
70s.
Yeah.
And some of the hits for our viewers, just to refresh their memories. I know they still play them today. The Love I Lost. Yesterday I Had the Blues. Wake Up Everybody, and the Grammy-nominated song If You Don't Know Me by Now. Was that a good experience for you? And why did it end when it ended? Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes.
That was a learning experience for me. If you remember, I came from where as I mentioned, as a little black kid in the inner city, it was all trial and error for me. I knew not where I was going or how to get there. Right. You just used every opportunity you had that got you to the next level. So during my young years, I mean, I traveled as a drummer and played for different people and left people in different states. I even quit a guy in Canada because, you know, things just weren't going the way I thought they should go. So I'm not one that sticks around if it's not going my way. So I would leave, I'd go and I'd try this. I played with different bands. And working with Harold at the time, he was the remaining member of a 50s doo-wop group called the Blue Notes, who had hit records in the 50s. Right. So he was carrying the group's name on and continuously and always updated and upgraded the group. So the group was had disbanded. He was trying to retool the group. I went as a drummer. Yeah. Now, I started with him as a drummer. The group disbanded again, and he had heard me sing and asked, would you want to come up front and sing with us? And I went, okay. So again, that was another stepping stone, a chance to take advantage of an opportunity. Well, while there, we got the attention of Gamble & Huff while we were out, and that started the records. At that time, he wanted to make sure that it was recognized he was the leader of the group. So he decided to put Harold Melvin in front of the Blue Notes. Right. Because the Blue Notes was an established group that I don't know whether he had the rights to. I don't know anything. Sure. I didn't know it at the time. So by being with Harold, I got a chance to learn, understand, and begin what ultimately turned out to be a wonderful career. So from the standpoint of a learning experience, it was the most wonderful learning experience I could have had. From other aspects, I mean, it had its ups and downs. Had its ins
I read somewhere that his roots were from the 50s, as you mentioned. And part of the problem a lot of these musicians had in the 50s, I guess, was the bookkeeping. And this was not a one-dimensional. We had Benny King on the show, and right down the line, to a man, everyone said, you know, it was tough getting your money in those days. And I guess Harold Melvin was no different in that respect.
He had his way of making sure that he got his first. And that everybody else was a paid hired hand. I was a paid hired hand, but again, from the perspective of a learning experience, it was a wonderful learning experience. Sure. I wouldn't have changed it. Just during the time when you're going through it, you go, "Oh man, this is crazy," you know. And I didn't feel I was getting my just dues, and all the things that a lot of people have gone through. But it actually was a wonderful experience. I got a chance to see things from the ground up and began to understand what things are, how they should be, what not to do, what you should do, and that is what at some point prompted me to say it's time to leave. But I didn't leave until I understood what it was I needed to do and what to do and what not to do.
Sure. You learned the business during that period.
Yes.
A lot of our viewers watching today are probably not aware of this next fact, and that is that you're about to make a major comeback.